Michael and Emily had been working hard to rebuild their marriage after the betrayals and challenges they had faced. But despite their best efforts, the scars from the past still lingered, threatening to reopen old wounds. One evening, as they were getting ready for bed, Emily noticed that Michael seemed unusually distant. He had been receiving text messages all evening, and each time his phone buzzed, he would quickly glance at the screen and then put the phone face down. Emily's heart sank as a familiar feeling of dread crept in. The trust they had painstakingly rebuilt now felt fragile, and a nagging suspicion began to take root in her mind. "Who keeps texting you?" Emily asked, trying to keep her voice steady, though she could feel her nerves fraying. Michael looked up, caught off guard by the question. "Just work stuff, nothing important," he replied. But there was something in his tone that made Emily uneasy. She decided to let it go for the night, but her mind was restless. As she lay in bed next to him, she couldn't stop thinking about the messages. The doubts gnawed at her, and the more she tried to push them away, the more they consumed her thoughts. Was Michael hiding something from her? Was history repeating itself? The next day, Emily found herself replaying the past in her mind, questioning whether Michael had truly forgiven her or if he was secretly harboring resentment. She noticed small things, how he seemed more withdrawn lately, how he would step out of the room to take phone calls, and how he was more guarded with his phone. It all added up to a growing sense of unease. Unable to shake her suspicions, Emily decided to confront Michael again, but this time with more urgency. That evening, after dinner, she asked him directly, "Michael, are you seeing someone else?" Michael froze, his expression shifting from surprise to anger. "What? How could you even ask that?" he demanded, his voice rising in frustration. "After everything we've been through, you think I would do that to you?" Emily's eyes welled up with tears. "I don't know what to think, Michael. You've been so distant lately, and I can't help but feel like something is wrong." Michael's face softened for a moment, but then he shook his head, his anger resurfacing. "This is about you, isn't it? You're projecting your own guilt onto me because you can't forgive yourself for what happened." The accusation hit Emily like a punch to the gut. "That's not fair," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I've done everything I can to make things right, but you're the one who's been acting suspiciously." The argument escalated quickly, emotions running high on both sides. They rehashed old wounds, throwing past mistakes in each other's faces until the tension became unbearable. Finally, in a moment of raw anger, Michael shouted, "Maybe we're just not meant to be together anymore." The words hung in the air, heavy with finality. Emily stared at him, stunned and heartbroken. "Is that what you really want?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Michael didn't answer, his silence speaking volumes. Without another word, Emily turned and walked out of the room, the weight of his words crushing her spirit. That night, she packed a small bag and left the house, unable to stay in a place that now felt suffocating and full of pain. Days turned into weeks, and the silence between them grew. Emily moved in with a friend, needing space to clear her mind and figure out what to do next. She replayed the fight over and over in her head, wondering if there was any way to fix the damage or if their marriage was truly beyond repair. Meanwhile, Michael was left alone in the house, grappling with his own guilt and confusion. He had never meant to push Emily away, but the combination of old wounds and new suspicions had driven a wedge between them that seemed impossible to remove. He missed her terribly, but he didn't know how to bridge the gap they had created. The final straw came one evening when Emily received an anonymous message on social media. It was from a woman she didn't recognize, claiming that she had been involved with Michael for the past few months. The message included details that only someone close to Michael could know, and it was filled with accusations that made Emily's blood run cold. Devastated, Emily confronted Michael one last time, showing him the message. But instead of denial, Michael's face turned pale as he realized who had sent it. "That's from Megan," he said quietly, naming a coworker who had been a little too friendly lately. "She's been trying to get close to me, but I swear nothing ever happened." Emily didn't know what to believe anymore. The betrayal, whether real or perceived, was too much for her to bear. "I can't do this anymore, Michael," she said, tears streaming down her face. "I love you, but I can't keep living in this constant state of doubt and fear." Michael's heart broke as he watched Emily walk away, knowing that this time it might truly be the end. He had let his insecurities and his inability to fully forgive destroy the one thing he cherished most, his marriage. Months passed, and the divorce papers were filed. Both Michael and Emily tried to move on with their lives, but the pain of what they had lost lingered. They had loved each other deeply, but love alone hadn't been enough to save them from the corrosive effects of mistrust and jealousy. In the end, they both realized that while love could be powerful and all-consuming, it could also be fragile, easily shattered by the very things meant to protect it. Their story was a tragic reminder that sometimes, despite the best intentions, love can't always survive the trials of life.